Okay, everybody, we're going to get started with interiors making space. Welcome, everybody, to the online intensive. And this will last for the next 4 weeks, and each session will be 2 hours each. This week, we are in a meeting room format, and next week it will probably be a webinar format, and I'll be sending out a new link to everybody for that, and I'll be also sending out links for the recordings when this is done. So if you can't make a live session, you'll be able to catch up with the recorded session. And if you are not familiar with the Zoom format in a meeting room, you should find on the top right, if it's a PC tablet, it'll say gallery view or speaker view. And if you hit gallery view, you'll see there's all the different folks out there, including you'll see some different windows of this studio. And you're welcome during this session to double tap any of those windows from the studio, and you can see different points of view as I'm working and talking. I'm going to also be changing that for the recordings that I'm doing, and so you'll be able to do that as well. Let's see. I'll be going through explaining in the next 4 weeks some basic foundations for setting up an interior on a flat surface, on a paper or canvas, what that entails, how to go about that, and we will have, I'll give you all exercises to do for the following week, and then we can take a look at that as we move into the next piece. So we're building formal elements. So we're going to be starting this week. We'll start with a slideshow, and we'll talk through some of the pieces that are necessary for setting up an interior. And then I'll give a demonstration. And this week's, the emphasis will be on the geometry, the linear setup for the interior. And so I'll be working on this, and we will be looking at that. I will be looking at that, and how do you set that up? How does that go down on a piece of paper? So we will build this first week with the linear geometry. Next week we will move into value, the darks and lights. How does that work? What to think about? What to pay attention to as we try to set up an interior in terms of value, and then we'll move into color. And we'll have a couple of weeks with color, trying to put together the basic structure of an interior space on a canvas. So that will be for the first 4 weeks. Part 2 of Interiors Making Space, I will be demonstrating different ways of experimenting, playing. How do I imagine into this space? How can I experiment with it? What are different ways of marking and using the situation? And what are different ways of going about that? And so that'll be the part 2, more experimental in terms of an interior space. We also have a members-only Facebook page. If you haven't checked that out, please do. And you'll need to request membership, and I will go through and basically approve everybody, and then you can just post the work that you're doing if you would like to. You don't have to. And you're also welcome to just send me email JPEGs of the work you're doing as well. Okay, so if there are, I don't see any chat questions. If you have any burning questions right now, if not, maybe you can hold on to them until after we go through the slideshow, and then I'll take questions again, and then we'll move into the demo. Okay, so glad you're all here, and it's a nice sunny day out here in Colorado. I don't know where you're all tuning in from. Hope it's good weather. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to do a screen share from the laptop, and we're going to start looking at some slides. So here, this is Vermeer, and he was setting things up in terms of linear geometry. You can see that he's really plotted all this out in terms of there's a horizon line and all of the setup with all of those orthogonals. Oh, that's strange. The work that we'll be doing is more directly from perception. So I'm not going to be setting up a preconceived notion of how all of these orthogonals need to be set up. We're not going to be setting up in terms of traditional linear geometry. We're going to be working more through observed perception of the geometry. But you can see here that all of these angles become really critical for a sense of the geometry of the room, where things are. So we have these angles, we have the floor, right? We have the way this is facing us, these frontal rectangles. The overlap also becomes very crucial. The table being larger and in front of the chair being in front of the people, and the people being in front of the keyboard, I suppose. So I'm going to go to another one. Again, these angles become very important. The way the tabletop is set up becomes very important. Down here becomes very important. All of these are cues visually for the setup of the space. Another Vermeer. Please mute if you're not muted. So this angle of the chair becomes very important. The angle of the window, of the wall, here, down in here. All of that becomes crucial as we're setting up a sense of space. This is not, this is Hammershøi. He was Danish, end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century. So you can, again, looking at these angles. Also, the placement of the feet of the furniture becomes very important. Here, the relative size of the bowls and the way they're placed, the angle of the table. Here again. Please check to see if you're muted If you're not muted, please mute while we're going through this now. So all of this geometry become real important clues for how the room is set up. The other, if you haven't noticed, of course, the other important factor here, formal element, are the values, how the lights and darks are set up as well, and we'll get to that next week. You can see that here. This is another Hammershoy, but look how important that table is here, and the light coming through on the floor. Those give us that sense of space that if they were missing, we would just have this frontal, wall coming at us. This is Gwen John. She was also end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, British. This is also Gwen John, and very reduced values, but look at how she's setting this up. And we'll look at these again when we move into value. Another Gwen John. Whoop. This is Edward Hopper, 20th century American. And again, looking at the geometry, just slightly off horizontal. Again, slightly off horizontal as he's setting up the geometry of the interior space of the motel room. This becomes important here, not just compositionally, but also that sense of space, these diagonals. Another Edward Hopper, the bed, the angles here, the angles of the structure of the window. Another Hopper. And let's see, one last Hopper. So it's a little surreal. So again, this becomes crucial for that sense of interior space, the way these angles are set up, and then these larger shapes and these smaller shapes, and there's a room on the, on the other side of this wall. Okay. Great. So, hi. Let's go back to, can I do that? There we go. Hello. So what I'm going to be doing now is do a demo of drawing, figuring out what to do with this interior that I see. Let's see. Can I get there from this interior? So I'm going to try to figure out what information here. There's an enormous amount of information. What do I need to set up this drawing to give me a sense of this interior? And again, you're all welcome, I believe, from your computers. You can tap to find which angle you want, if you would like to see the interior or you want this view of me drawing. Let's see, I'm gonna move this so you can see a little better while I draw. Okay, before we go on, are there any questions about anything that I've just mentioned in terms of the geometry and looking at those slides? You can unmute or you can just type in a chat and I can read it. All right, we'll go on. So usually I would draw in graphite, but I will be working in charcoal for the sake of camera and zooming. So there's a lot of furniture here, right? But what becomes crucial to set up in the beginning is actually the walls and the floor. You need to understand where things, you're kind of building your interior and the values, the geometry of the interior of the walls and the floor, along with and then setting up those values. So you're really kind of constructing this space. So I've got this big red carpet right there, and I've got these walls, I've got a window, I've got, let's see, I've got a corner coming in here, and I'll need to measure to find out where is the corner of the, it's right underneath it. How do you like that? I don't think I ever noticed that. So I've got my, the corner of my rug is about here. Let's see, I'm gonna, so I've got, let's say my rug is here, and I've got this angle here and this angle here, and I need to know where is this angle, where is this point in relation to that point, and I'd like it to fit into this paper. So let's see, I'm going to, it is down to the right, so this point down here is to the right of this point here. And I've got, let's see, 1, 2 of these. 1, 2, that'll work. And if that's 1, 1, 2, and that takes me to the stool. 1, 2, and then the stool will be under here, all right, or over here. And this is that little picture, it's a Matisse actually, on top of the stool. So I'm setting up where things are, and I've got this, and then I've got this angle, and I've got, I need to measure that in relation to that. 1, 2, 3, about 3.5. 1, 1, 2, 3. So this would be about here. And then I've got the stool here coming down. And where is the floor? The floor is about the same as this. So here, so the floor, where this wall, where are you? Where that wall hits the floor is about here. Now I can just, I don't know if you can, I'm only seeing, oh, this little area right there. But that's important. I need to see that. And that's here. And then I got the bottom of the stool is here, just to the left of my corner of the rug. Okay. And then I've got this line of the floor. And if I look, the line of this floor actually runs through the line of this chair. So there's this angle that's running all the way through that way. And that's my yellow chair. So you can already see that things are being set up, trying to arrange the room, the structure of the room. Let's see. Got here the opening. This is, the plant is going to be here. I've got the space of the shadow, and then there's the chair against the window, which is just about horizontal and comes across through this way, across here. So I'm getting a horizontal that intersects my Matisse reproduction about there. And let's see, how far across does it go? 1, 2.5. 1, 2.5, a little bit more to about there. So that's going to be that red chair back there. And then I've got my yellow chair here. I've also got these slight lines going across in the fabric, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so let's see. The yellow chair comes across here, and where is it exactly? Let's see. It's about this far. So here's the end of my yellow chair. And from this point, I can see it starts horizontally, going across, and then curves down that way. So there's lots of geometry involved in setting up all of the forms in the rectangle. So I'm placing all of the shapes in relation to this sense of the structure of the walls that I set up. So all these angles become actually quite critical. This to this, these subtle slight angles, they all become very important in terms of the believability of the structure of the interior. Now we've got that stool. And if this is the yellow chair, and here is the foot of the chair. Leg. And it turns out that the placement of the feet of the chairs, of the furniture, become really crucial in terms of the believability of the floor plane. It's like if you do a still life, all the objects need to be in right relation. The bottoms of all the objects need to sit together correctly in order to believe in the plane of the table. Same with the floor. So where the foot of the yellow chair is in relation to where the bottom of one of the legs of the stool, and then the other, you know, all of this becomes very important in terms of the believability of the structure of the interior. Nope, that's two. Let's see. There. Eraser. And that is not a vertical. It is, I've got it almost as a vertical. It's actually going that way. So let's change that. And it is underneath here. Okay, well that's good. But I have to go that way. And that's about right. Okay. So here. And it turns out that stools are a bear. You've got this ellipse, you've got the spacing in between the legs, the negative space, getting that just right. And then there's all of the legs coming, all of the rods or whatever you call them, coming through and getting these things just right. It's like an exercise in negative shapes, getting all that right. Let's see, this is over here. Here we go. And that is here.
Hey Jordan, could you tell your camera a little? That drawing is cropped.
Which one?
The one that shows the drawing is cropping the stool that you're drawing.
Oh.
We can't see the stool part of the drawing.
In this camera?
No, this camera is fine.
No, it's in the camera from behind you, looking at the interior space with the.
That one. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Hang on. That's right.
There you go. Perfect.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, feel free to chime in like that to help me with these technical aspects. Thank you, Paul. Better. Let's see. Then you get the director's chair. You get all of it now. All right, cool. Thank you. Okay. So this has to go up like that. That's the, so we've got this, this is here, this is here, this comes down. Here, here, let's get that out of there. So you can see this angle becomes crucial, the alignment here of all of the legs. We have this and we have this. And the corner of this red carpet down there, that's right underneath here. That's about, no. Yeah, it's about right here. And then this angle comes down. Oh, I'm not gonna, no, come on. This is across here. Can I go there? Let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, that's about right. So it goes maybe this way, that way. Okay. And then we got over here, the director's chair. Now, director's chair, I have drawn and painted hundreds of director's chairs in my day, and it's never come easily. It's like getting all the angles right and getting all the space, and it's always like never just happens. Anyway, let's go for it. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to start here. Let's see where we are. Got a big plant in here. I'll come back to that. We've got this coming down, and so to get to the director's chair, I'm setting up my red chair over here. Is that right? Yeah, that's about right. Okay. And so, oh, I don't even have the whole thing in here. Is that true? Let's see. I don't know. Here is the handle here. Handle, arm. Let's see, this is here. This is here. And this part of the chair is right underneath the other chair right here. So this angle. Now, all of these angles, again, it becomes critical finding just the right angles, the alignment. It's a It's a real study in architecture. No, that's not right. That is not right. What is that? Oh, I got to move that up. That is in the wrong place. It's under here. So this has to pull out further. Trying to get out of the way for you guys so you can see the drawing. There we go. That makes more sense. Oh, and then there's the legs. And how far down? Oh, let's see. Gosh, I don't know. So it starts to hold. Let's see. Let's see. Ah, that can't be right. That looks weird. Doesn't that look weird? That looks weird. But maybe. Maybe it's true. I don't know. That looks weird. It comes over here. Well, that's about right. That way. That way. Let's see. All right. It's about right. Things are a bit different through perceptual geometry. It's different than a lot of our expectations through the system of linear geometry with all the orthogonals. But I guess so. Let's get in there. See, I wasn't kidding when I said about the director's chair. Okay, I can sort of live with that. That's okay. So this is here. Okay, here's my coffee. Woo! So this is setting up the space. So the way this is setting up this wall, this is setting up the space on this side, from this chair to this chair, both in terms of the relative size This is larger, this is smaller, this is in front. Also the angles, right? All of that is setting up the spatial experience. I still think this is a little funky.
Jordan,
Yeah,
I think you've compressed a little bit too much into the right side of your canvas. I mean, I think the carpet is a little wider. I think that's what you're feeling.
it's too wide.
No, not wide enough. The carpet is not wide enough, and the director's chair would be further over to the right a little. I think you've compressed it slightly.
Maybe.
This looks to me.
I don't know. Keep measuring it. It looks. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, the measures are all happening. I think that might be just a little bit more out this way. That way. I think so. Well, maybe it's a little lower. I got some plants over here. Let's see, what else do we need for this? Maybe this guy. That's strange. This is here. Really? Ah. This is here. This is here. That's there. That's yep. All right, you see, I moved so you guys can see, and I'm a little bit different. This is here. Oh, here. This is here. This is here. Here. Oh, there's that brass Middle Eastern thing, this thing. And that becomes helpful too in ascertaining the wall, the angle of this ellipse here, this oval. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Here, here, here. There we go. Here, can't really see it behind that plant. And it's taller than I was thinking. It's about there. So you can see the way the angles of the rug, the understood angles of the wall, the angles of the furniture. I'm building an interior through all of this geometry. And I get to put my plant in. And my pot. Well, any questions on this end of things for now? Any chats? There are some chats. Hello. Hello, all you chats. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Oh, bad connection. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, the recording later will be complete. How do you see if you go up to the top windows and scroll along, if you're in gallery view, and you see there's all these different people and also views of my different cameras. One of those views is going to be this one. If you double tap on this window in your iPad or in your tablet, you double click or double tap, and that should become take up the main frame. So let's see if I can do that here. Can I do it? See that? So that's what I've been drawing. Oh, thanks, Ben. Yes. Is my studio interior set up ahead of time to elicit? You don't mean that spelling of it. That's illegal, the angles. Well, I suppose it is. I suppose it is, Paul. I have set up the furniture in such a way, you can see where that director's chair is placed becomes helpful in creating this experience. It's like when we were looking at those reproductions of the Vermeer or the Hammershoy or the Hopper, that luggage for Hopper was in a very good place. The table and the chairs, they were all in very good places for Hammershoy and Vermeer. Those were helpful compositional structures. My director's chair, if this was here, right? Can you all see that? That's a whole different ball of wax. Or if it wasn't there at all, right? So you definitely, thank you, Paul. You definitely want to think about your setup, where you're standing, just like when you're, if you go outside and you're doing a plein air landscape, where you stand becomes crucial, critical. Same with the interior. Where you stand, how the light is coming in, the furniture, the carpet. The carpet. Hello? No. Okay. So that, yes, thank you, Paul. That's very helpful. Let's see what else we got. Right. So again, Judy, take a look at your gallery view. Find the window that has the carpet, the scene of the interior, and double tap on that. Let's see.
Jordan, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Who's that?
This is it's Moshe Braun.
Hi, Moshe.
Hi. I find it amazing that you're seeing the way that you've set it up. It's like the fact that you've got, it's like something like 3D. It's like the joint of the walls in the corner, going vertically. Yeah, it's like also it's amazing because you're using basically almost a square piece of paper, which is always very challenging, and you're seeing like totally maximizes it. It's impressive. Just the multiple elements of the geometry.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I do particularly like, so just like Paul's question about, you know, setting up an interior. Have I been setting up the interior to elicit these angles to create a structure? Your comment about the size of this piece of paper, this is almost square. This is actually 26 by 22. So what is that? That's like 5 by 4 proportion, something like that. And it started out taller. It was a 30 inches by 22 inches, which is, I particularly like a more square format. And the proportion of your format is going to be very important for the way you set up your interior, just like the format is important when you go out landscape painting, how the structure of the space is set up. And it does take some time to become familiar with what proportion for the rectangle fits your visual experience when you set up an interior. And one of the things that I would suggest, two things actually, in terms of exercises for this coming week. One, like we've done now, is setting up, you know, some kind of interior at home that you can observe. If you could take over the living room or, you know, what have you, and try to ascertain where are the floor angles, the architecture of the window or the furniture, how that's set up. The other thing I would, and just use line, don't move into value. We'll do that next week. But just through line and careful measuring. Take your time. But also, I would suggest get a hold of a Vermeer or a Hammershoy. Here, Hammershoy. This is Hammershoy in Europe. I think it might still be in print. I don't know. Hammershoi, or it's not really an O, it's that thing. Or Hopper, right? And just with pencil, measure out the proportion of the painting, of the reproduction, and analyze what are those angles? How are these folks setting up the furniture, the interior, the architecture of the windows? All of those become very important. And it also helps us become familiar with, you know, what kind of rectangle are we interested in? Yeah. Other thoughts or questions at this point?
Yeah, Jordan, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Ben Hamburger. Hi.
Hi, Ben. Benny?
I got the wrong time before too. That was my bad.
No worries. No worries. It's fine.
So it seems like these past couple questions have made me think about composition.
Right.
And it seems like you just kind of launched into drawing. Do you have an idea for the composition prior to doing this, or do you generally do several thumbnails to figure out compositions prior to a painting?
Well, my own working method is I end up finding a motif and I just keep on going at it. That's just my own. So I don't actually I don't do a thumbnail. I'll do lots of drawing of the situation. My own personal way of working is I just develop a rapport through perception with the motif over and over and over again, through drawings, through paintings. But certainly, you know, someone like Hopper, that's exactly what he did as the thumbnail, you know, and he'll work up compositions repeatedly, sometimes up to 40 compositional drawings, figuring out exactly what he wants, and then he goes and paints. You know, Hopper's not working from observation by and large. He's inventing everything and doing studio paintings. So it really depends on your own personal working method. But what I wanted to do, you're absolutely right. We do need to have some kind of compositional structure, where this is in the rectangle, where that landed, how I placed all of these pieces of furniture. Of course, hugely crucial to the experience of the space. If this point was down here and the carpet was falling up, we'd have a whole different set of demands in terms of getting this space to work. So yes, you do need to think about placement in terms of the rectangle, where things are going. I wanted to emphasize the just sort of like the nuts and bolts of the geometry, getting these angles. But it's, of course, very important. Where is all of this happening in relation to this rectangle?
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions right now? Great. So why don't I go ahead? I'm going to do another demo of a reproduction. What I was just suggesting. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to take this and change this up. You guys can see that okay, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. And a little more coffee. All right. Now, I'm going to find my Edward Hopper. So I particularly like the Hopper for that geometry, for that sense of clarity of structure. Let's see if I can find. There's one in particular. I showed it during the slideshow, but I have a hard time finding it when I look through this book. Well, you could do that. Maybe we'll do this one. I almost actually copied this painting once, the actual painting, in grad school. Let's see. We'll check that out. Can you all? Nah. Maybe I'll put it on the other side. Better. But is that maybe better? Is that better? Okay. So what I suggest is copying the linear elements of this.
Jordan,
What I mean by that is, yeah,
Jordan,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Could the camera that's to your left, the one that's yeah. Would it be possible just to push it a little more to the left or position? Yeah, perfect.
Right?
Or,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Perfect. That, you know, and feel free to make these suggestions. I'm just hanging out here, and you know, if there are technical improvements, absolutely chime in. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's put this down. Where does this go? I don't know. It's here. Oh no, I can't. La, 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 la. Okay. This goes here. Okay. So, you know, you can measure, you know, like this. You know, it's about 1.5 to 1, something like that. You can measure with a ruler. And I would suggest when you lay down your rectangle to start with, you do it on the inside of your paper. Don't go all the way out to the edge, because you may find as you work, you have to extend one side to get the proportion right. Maybe you didn't start it up right. I mean, the truth is, this is a funky painting to use for this. It's an odd one, but we're going to do it anyway. Here we are. Now look at that door down there. That's crazy. And he's getting the face of the door right up against that edge. So he's actually, you know, playing with the whole flatness of the canvas there. That's pretty weird, but pretty great. kind of demon corny now that you look at it. Didn't really think about that before. Ooh, look at that little angle change. Well, it's a pretty flattish composition actually, but it does give you a sense of what I'm talking about in terms of the exercise. You know, you can imagine, you know, taking a Vermeer, Balthus also, you know, lots of interiors, the Hammershoy, Hopper. So this is an example of what I mean when I suggest copying the linear structure. How is Hopper dividing up the rectangle? What are the angles, the placement in order to create a sense of space? Truth is, this is a rather flattish composition, but it's cool. Any questions about this exercise?
Yeah, what's your take on that? I mean, what was he trying to do there?
What's he trying to do?
Yeah, just
Oh, I
give
don't-
us your take.
The actual painting?
Well, like you just said, how he's setting it up. What do you?
Well, other than the ocean being right outside the door, it's a pretty believable situation. I don't know what he was thinking. That's kind of wild. I cover up the ocean, and that's, you know, that's some house on Cape Cod, right? The light coming in, and he's got the ocean right outside that door. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. I love the interior a lot. I mean, the whole thing is wild. Just beautiful shaping and light. This whole shape and this red and the light coming in. Beautiful. But in terms of, this is just as an example of, you know, how to think through it. You want all of the proportions here to be fairly accurate. So you have it, and the angles in particular. That's really helpful. You get the angle wrong on a chair, the mat, you know, on the seat of a chair, or the legs on the floor. I mean, right? You need all of those things in place for this thing to start to hold. And yes, it's also a compositional structure. So both of those things go together. Other questions or thoughts? Kind of wild how similar that is to a demon cord. I don't think I've got the right proportions. Isn't that longer? It's longer, no? Doesn't that look longer? It's, yeah, it is. It's probably, I'm missing it. It's probably out about to here. About there. I should do it again, but I won't right now. Should I do another one? Maybe I'll do another one. I'll do one more. Let's take something. It's a little more amenable. Here's another hopper. Morning sun. Should probably really measure. Ah, we're gonna get small. That's all right. We're going for it. Here we go. Here. that right? Maybe. Great, hello. Yeah. Looking at this again. Yeah, more like that maybe. So again, whoop, give me a corner. Let's see. Here, here, here. That's all right. Here. Here. That's screechy. Let's see. Get in there. So all of these angles, this, this, structuring the forms in that space. Any questions about the copying exercise?
Jordan,
Yeah.
it's Jill. Yeah, in both of these hoppers, there's almost like conflicting, or I don't know, kind of almost contradictory thing that's happening with the angles that are there. The angles that are not in your drawing, but in, in the paintings, where they're the angles that are coming out of the actual architecture, the window, the planes, and then there are the angles that came out of, even more so in the previous one, the sort of cast shadow, or the shaft of light or whatever, which, in its own way helps to define a plane, but at the same time kind of confuses the space. And I think that's an intentional thing, maybe, that he is exploring, or, it was there obviously, but it's, it's a different thing than the space.
Yeah.
No.
Well, he is playing compositionally with the light and the shadow. It's your call. I don't know. I mean, focus on how is he structuring? How is the bed fitting in there? What's the architecture of the window frame? But it's kind of cool. I mean,
it's really cool, and I think it's something Diebenkorn did, and I think it's something Diebenkorn may have, looked at Hopper's and kind of, I don't know, inspired to explore that sort of.
Yeah. Although I don't have a sense that shape is contradicting the interior.
No, it's not. I don't think of it as contradicting the interior, but I think it's a different use of diagonals,
absolutely. And there's a frontality to the light on that wall that it's very, very modern, for sure. No doubt.
I see it as kind of like a visual rhyme, where on the window, that diagonal is from the perspective of the window in space, but on the wall, the diagonal is exactly the same angle, but it's from the light. So it's kind of like a pun or something.
Yes. And the truth is, in terms of, in terms of the emphasis of this exercise, his shaping is very large, and that's helpful. But in terms of a more traditional space, it might make more sense to do a Vermeer, but I don't have any that I can pull out of a book. So I just tapped up the Hopper, because there it is. And also he's got nice big shapes, and I really didn't want to do all of those orthogonals on the floor, all those tiles. It gets a little bit much. But I would suggest, finding someone who's got a very clear geometry for an interior, like Vermeer or Hopper or Hammershoy or Balthus. Who else does that? I'm sure there are lots, but I'm not coming up with them at the moment. Well, Diebenkorn's got some lovely interiors too, although those are a little, they're even wilder than Hopper. What he does with his big windows, it's like, who has windows like that? Okay. So, any other questions about any of the material that we've been covering so far today?
Jordan,
A question, but it's not about what we've covered today.
Paul, and then whoever that was. Who were you?
Yeah, Moshe.
Okay, Moshe. Okay, Paul, what was it?
So, you've been posting some more abstract interior spaces,
right?
And on social media.
Yeah. Can
you comment a little bit about? It's like you're just taking those to a certain point and maybe stopping, but you're still actively seeking these same kinds of geometries, but in just a less representational way. Anyway, I was just curious to comment on the difference between those and what we're talking about.
Sure, and we'll talk about that more in part two. Part two will be more experimental with that regard. But I'm in those more abstract interiors, I'm trying to explore the experience of space more openly. Space as space, not in relation to architecture or architectural space. And seeing, well, it really depends on which, I mean, I'm experimenting in different ways, and some of them I want to just see how far I can go with letting go of how minimal can the reference to architectural space be, or referencing visual cues and still get away with the experience of space. Some of them are more gestural in terms of, you know, like in some of my charcoal drawings, just loosening up the clarity and going for a felt experience. But I don't want to go into all of that a little too much. I want to stay with just sort of this, you know, for us here now in terms of the exercise, you know, how do we set it up to get some clear interior space on this flat surface? Okay. I don't know if that answered anything. Paul?
I mean, well, if we're gonna get into it some more, then great. Yeah, that's cool. That was just,
Yeah, we'll get more. That's more part two, and I don't want to get too out there right now.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah. Moshe?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something you were mentioning about Edward Hopper doing, let's say, up to like 40 thumbnails. One of the things I grapple with is the idea of painting a scene based on trying to represent something, but not have, you know, in feelings, and essentially painting from, for lack of a better term, let's say imagination. In other words, not having the interiors in front of me to work from. So
Right.
I just maybe want to just ask, maybe if you could maybe speak about, I don't know if it's for now or maybe in the next sessions, about working, how to do that, how to develop the interiors when you don't
Right.
have it, you don't have them in front of you.
Right. So, and this is a working method of Hopper. He did not paint that painting in that room. He did a drawing of Joe, his wife, and then he used that drawing and invented this situation. So I would suggest, you know, get familiar with an interior by drawing from observation. You know, how does a bed fit in a room? How does a chair sit in a room? What's the architecture of a window? And do that from observation, get to know it, both through drawing and painting. And then those are your studies. That's your reference material. So that when you go to put together your thumbnail and you go to do your invented interior painting, you have source material to remember, to draw from as you invent your situation. And you know, also, he would be another person to look at. Degas has some wonderful interiors, and I meant to bring some. Also, Lopez Garcia, also some wonderful interiors. And you know, Degas always did his paintings from imagination, invention, and source material. He didn't do his paintings on site. That wasn't his deal. He thought Monet was nuts that way. So I would suggest, you know, do a lot of observational work as a way of building up your vocabulary, and then go to make your, you know, do thumbnails, you know, play out different ideas, and then do a painting from invention. That's what I would suggest for sure.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Other thoughts or questions or responses? Okay, well, wonderful. It's been a pleasure starting this up with all of you. And please feel free, as you do these exercises, to send me JPEGs or to go to the Facebook page. Check it out. The link is on the email that I sent to everybody, and request to be a member, and then you'll get approved and you can post and all that stuff. I will be, this is recorded, and so I will be editing and uploading the video and then sending you all a link for it, so you'll have access to this, to a recording of this session. Next week, I'd like to take some time to look at some of the work that you'll be doing, if you're open to that. If you're not, that's fine. Just let me know. And it will be helpful to share some of the engagement that you're all working on. And I will be also, we'll move now from the linear element of the geometry, and next week we'll add value, and I'll be doing a demo with both the geometry and value in black and white, and we'll be working in oils. And you're at home, you're welcome to set up something with charcoal, or whatever material really works for you at home is fine. Any other thoughts?
So, hi Jordan, this is Jarvis.
Jarvis.
So for this week we need to do like interior drawing from observation and a analyze of a artist's work. Is that correct?
That's what I would suggest. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's my suggestion.
Okay.
And to stay away from value.
Okay.
Value can really throw off you might actually nail the geometry, and the values might not be working, and then it's hard to see what's going on with the geometry. So yeah, just line, just trying to find, just the linear structure. And
in graphite?
Yes. I mean, I like graphite. You're welcome to charcoal or graphite. The charcoal has a tendency to get very graphic because it's so dark. But either way is really fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay. Well, great. First session, and with interiors, and I hope you're all well in these times of ours, staying sane enough. It's good to work, to draw and paint, and that's it. I look forward to next week. I look forward to hearing from all of you, and we will be in touch. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You.